I'm Kristen Z. Welcome to our daily special called Getting Answers. We're asking experts your question every day at 3 to get answers for you in real time. Today, we are welcoming back a spokesperson from the Employment Development Department, or California's EDD. So post your questions on our Facebook live stream, YouTube Live, or check out our Instagram stories to submit a question. Joining me today to answer as many questions as we can in the next half hour is Laurie Levy from the EDD. Thanks for coming back on the show, Laurie.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You answered lots of great questions last time, so just know that, the door is always open, red carpet for you, because we do have so many viewers who are wondering what happened. And we'll start with yesterday, because the EDD site was apparently not working for a lot of people who are self-employed, who tried to file their claims under PUA. In fact, State Senator Scott Wiener from San Francisco says his office has reached out, wants it fixed. Is it fully fixed, and what happened?
I think what's happening is because of the demand, the unprecedented demand that we're seeing, sometimes the system can be a little intermittent. And so, it depends on how much load is coming in at one given time. So luckily, our UI online system has been a true workhorse for us through this whole pandemic. That's the only reason why we've been able to process large volumes of claims automatically through that system and try to keep up with the workload. So there really are better times to try to get into the UI online system. And that's usually between the hours in the morning up until, say, 10 a.m. And then the evenings, say, like after 5. Those are usually the best times to be able to get in and minimize the load that may be coming in at any one given time.
So you're telling me during those prime hours, you are less likely to encounter glitches and be, cut off?
Right. So sometimes what happens is it's the connections with some of the other parts of the system that might get a little hesitant, and that could kind of cause some intermittent problems, all depending upon the load at any one given time. So if you encounter that, come back in a little later, but your best times to attempt that will be in the mornings and then the evenings after 5.
Look, aren't there infrastructure system upgrades that you could make, though, to eliminate those problems?
Well, we have a system that we're asking a lot more of it than usual, not just because of the regular unemployment insurance program. I mean, we are used to kind of getting hit with high demand, although nothing like what we've seen in this avalanche following this pandemic. But the thing is, we're asking it to do a lot more. We're essentially building the airplane in midair. We've had to build in 3 brand new provisions of the Federal CARES Act. The Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program is an entirely new program with all kinds of different eligibility requirements, start dates, et cetera. We have the new federal $600 stimulus payments, and we have the new federal 13-week extension scheduled to start into operation next week. So we're putting a lot into that system. It just drains it to make it kind of hesitant at some points, especially during peak hours.
All right. I want to address some of the nitty gritty, right? Eligibility
Sure.
and certification requirements. I think a lot of people are still confused by that as to whether those have changed. And if so, how are they different now?
Yeah, they have not changed. There was a period of time for a few weeks just to try to lighten the load on our system by which some certifications were being done on a more automated fashion. That is done. So the way that both systems work, that's regular unemployment and the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, is after you get a claim initiated, then every 2 weeks you must do what's called certifying. That means on an ongoing basis, you have to tell us, answering some basic questions, that yes, you remain unemployed and otherwise meet all eligibility requirements. In other words, you need to do that before you can get your biweekly benefit payment.
All right. So how worried are you about people who have gotten overpaid? Is that something you're encountering a lot?
I think it's a small subset of folks because there was only a short amount of time we were doing some auto certifying. We have set up a mechanism within our Ask EDD system where people can tell us, hey, I'm back to work. I don't need to go ahead and collect unemployment benefits anymore. We have some directions on that on our website. But in addition to that, we're trying to set up a whole nother section of our system by which people can report to us and we can collect any overpayments.
Okay, I want to get to some viewer questions, and they're coming in so fast I can barely read one before it jumps to the next one. A lot of questions about just who is eligible for PUA.
Right. Well, first of all, you have to have lost your job or had your hours reduced through no fault of your own as a direct result of the pandemic. And it only has been in place now since February 2nd. So, what it is for those who are self employed, independent contractors, business owners, those who aren't usually eligible for regular unemployment insurance, including those who have a minimal work history with an employer. So, what happens is you go in through the same portal, the same UI online system, but we've added additional questions in there so we can collect the information that we need to determine if whether or not we have to process your claim as a regular unemployment insurance claim or we have to process it as a pandemic unemployment assistance claim.
All right. Now, on their application, will it ask them, are you willing to work? Because let's say you're a hairdresser. You cannot say yes to that because you are not supposed to be working yet. So if you answer, no, I'm not willing to work, does that mean you're cut off right there?
Well, you have to be able and available to work in order to collect unemployment benefits, whether that be unemployment insurance or PUA system benefits. However, we have temporarily been able to adjust that normal eligibility requirement of looking for work, since obviously in a stay-at-home situation, there's not a whole lot of work available. So answer the questions truthfully. And on the back end, just know that if you're not looking for work at the moment, that will not prevent you from collecting unemployment benefits.
Okay, great. Sherry wants to know, how long does it take for identity verification? It's been over 30 days, and I've been waiting since March for payment. Need claim now. So how long does it take for the ID verification?
No, it's a very good question. And what's happening is that for most people, we can go and get their claims processed automatically through our system in about 3 weeks. And these are pretty clean cut. The ones that we are always going to take longer to process, doesn't matter whether it's now in a pandemic or any other time, are those in which the wage information received doesn't match our wage records, or we cannot verify the individual's identity in the first case of when we first get their information in. So for those situations, we do have to go back. Staff has to follow up and get some additional information from a claimant to help prove they are who they say they are. And that helps us protect the integrity of this system, because hackers who might go in with imposter fraud won't follow up with that, and we can deter them from collecting benefits. Typically, it only takes us a couple of, maybe additional week or two. It may be taking a little longer right now because of that avalanche that came in of a claim load, which funnels through all of the buckets of claims that we're working with. So we are doing a number of things, redirecting hundreds of staff to those identity alert issues. And we're also looking at automation by how we can further automate that to make it a little easier to process.
All right. Dawn Griffin wants to know, I have yet to receive any money, even though I certify 4 weeks. So is that normal? And how about the $600?
Mm-hmm. Well, you can't get the federal extra $600 payment, for example, unless you are collecting at least $1 in either a regular unemployment benefit payment or a pandemic unemployment assistance payment. So that's the requirement. And then we will automatically add that extra $600 to that payment.
Okay. Now, Karen wants to know, if you were fired and can you still collect if you were collecting before you were fired?
You know, it all depends. There are some what we call good cause provisions in the unemployment insurance program. In other words, that you have good cause for either refusing work or leaving work. And there are some certain requirements about that. So on your certification, what you do every 2 weeks to tell us you're eligible, mark on that yes, I have refused work. And then what happens is we have to follow up with you. It's a kind of a case-by-case basis to determine whether or not your reasons match good cause for refusing that work.
Okay. Here's a question. I'm essential. I have no childcare due to the school shutdown. Can I stop work and get help from you guys?
Again, that's one of those case-by-case basis. What you do is go ahead, if you haven't already applied, do so, and then we can collect some information from you to help us determine whether or not you meet the eligibility requirements of you can't work through no fault of your own, for example. Mm-hmm. And so I would encourage you to either apply for the benefits, or if you've already done so, just make sure you note that on your certification form.
All right, one last question before we take a short break. Kimberly English wants to know, can I get the $600 extra, the federal money we were referring to, even if I go back part-time?
Well, again, if you are collecting at least $1 in a regular unemployment insurance payment and the minimum is $167 on the PUA payment, you will be given that extra $600 benefit payment when you get your biweekly payments.
Okay, we're going to take a short break right now on air, but you can get extra content if you go over to our live streaming platforms. We'll keep this conversation going with Laurie over online right now.
We are in commercial break.
All right, Facebook friends, here's our chance to chat a little bit more with Laurie Levy from the EDD. Again, thanks for coming. Really appreciate that. I know how busy you are, and I know that people have lots of questions. Here's a question from Melinda Tan, and even though I don't know if you have an actual answer to this, it kind of speaks to the frustration levels out there. She says, how to talk to a live person without the machines and random phone numbers that never answer.
You know, we know that it's so difficult right now to get through on the phones. To give you an idea, you know, in just the last 4 weeks alone, we estimate there's 3.8 million people collecting benefits. Over the 4 years of the last recession, we reached a peak of 2.2 million Californians out of work. So that just gives you the sense of the avalanche of demand we are dealing with. So yes, we understand it's very difficult to get through on the phone. The good thing is we are expanding the capacity on our phone lines on a daily basis, continue to redirect hundreds of staff. We are in the process of a mass hiring expedited effort to bring on an additional 1,800 staff over the next several weeks. So that capacity is growing every day. But if you can't get through on the phone, there are a lot of very helpful resources available to you on our website. Mm-hmm. In addition, you can make a phone appointment at your local America's Job Center of California and find your local office on our website and connect with them for a phone appointment that can provide some assistance as well.
You know, all the new folks that you're hiring and training, how long does it take before they're ready to start working and helping out?
Well, everything is phased, right? Normally it takes about 6 months to train someone to be fully available in terms of claim filing. That's a pretty complex kind of process. So what we do is when we redirect these folks, we bring them on. They're kind of taking more of the usual kind of common question calls that we get, and that takes at least a few days of training. Mm-hmm. And then meanwhile, we continue to hire some people on again through that more extensive training so we can expand our claim processing capability even further.
All right, Laurie, we're going back on TV in 9 seconds.
7, 6, 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2.
All right, we are back with Laurie Levy from the EDD answering your questions today. Shannon Joanne wants to know, what if regular UI benefits prior to COVID are set to expire in 2 weeks? What are the next steps for me?
So if I'm collecting, and again, I don't have the particulars of this person's claim. However, if it is, you're still within your existing benefit year and you're about ready to run out of your benefits and you still have not been able to obviously return to work through no fault of your own, you're probably most likely a candidate for a federal extension. That's the new 13-week extension that we are launching next week in phases. So the most recent folks who have been running out of benefits, they'll be most likely the first ones will be able to get an extension processed for. And we will do that automatically for you once we see that you've kind of ended your up to 26 weeks of benefits. You get a notice, you get something in your UI online account, and then you're granted that ability to certify if indeed you're eligible for that next payment.
All right, we're getting a question from Twitter. What happens after you run out of the 13-week PUEC extension? By the time I get it, it's all going to be back paid toward bills. Do I get switched to PUA?
It all kind of depends. It's very much a case-by-case basis, but I will tell you that in the last recession, there ended up being a total of 4 or 5 different extensions of benefits available, each one carrying different weeks of benefits associated with it, a little bit different eligibility with each one. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more coming up as well as we proceed.
Explore, this is my question. What about taxes, right? Because there's normally an option to have federal taxes taken out before the payment is received, right? But now with automatic payments, people are getting the full amount without the taxes taken out. So does that mean people are going to owe a whole bunch of money on their taxes when they have to file next year?
It's quite possible that you might want to set aside a little bit of money. Normally, we can do that for you, and you get that option when you select to collect your unemployment benefits. But it is one of those things that we highly recommend that people do plan for.
Okay. Will the extension be backdated? It starts next week, from James Carr.
It all depends, again, on when you ran out of your regular benefits, because the earliest we can pay an extension claim is for the week that started March 29th. So if indeed you ran out of your benefits, you're still within your 12-month benefit year, but you ran out of benefits, say, sometime in January, we cannot pay you any extension benefits between that January timeframe and the start of the extension period. So it all kind of depends on when you run out of those up to 26 weeks of benefits in the regular UI program.
All right, and Jose has a question which I think reflects a lot of people's frustration as well. He says, how long does it take from pending to paid? A lot of people feel like they're just waiting and waiting, and his status says pending for over 4 weeks.
Well, we've now processed 5.1 million claims for benefits and paid more than $16 billion in benefits. So what that shows you is that really the vast majority of people, if they come in, use UI Online, that's really highly suggested because we can automate processing through the UI Online system much faster than via phone or paper. And if you can do so, it's a pretty clean claim. We can get that done usually in about 3 weeks before you receive that first benefit payment. And when you get your EDD debit card, from that point on, you get into a biweekly certification period. And each week, or each of those biweekly payment periods, you can get that benefit payment usually within a couple of days.
Okay. PEUC questions. I want to know, if we were put on PUA first, will those weeks be subtracted from the PEUC? Also, does PEUC end when someone's claim year ends?
And I think what you're talking about there is really all the confusion that has been so difficult for so many people out there right now. Normally, the regular unemployment insurance program is pretty confusing on its own, but you have a lot of new people, and now we have a lot of new provisions that we've had to put in place with the Federal CARES Act. And all these things have different start dates, eligibility requirements. So it's been extraordinarily confusing. We're doing our best to get information up on our website on a daily basis to help people keep informed on very things just like that. The unfortunate thing is it really all kind of depends on when you're out of your benefits and what kind of dates your claim falls within, whether or not you get into a PUA claim and then get transferred to an extension claim later.
Okay, Georgianne has a question that says no option on her account to apply for a PUC online, or PUA, pardon me. Why can't I manage my claim online like I'm told by EDD? Only received 13 weeks of UI, which ended already. Will I get more money soon? So, yeah, applying for a PUA online seems to be challenging for her too.
And I think, again, that goes back to the confusion. We have one UI online system, and it's because we need to collect all the same information, whether or not you're applying for a regular unemployment insurance program or a PUA program claim. And then if you give us, depending upon the information you give us, you're presented additional questions that we've programmed in, and that helps us understand whether we have to process your claim as a regular claim or a PUA claim. So there really is no separate system. It's all in the same system, and it remains available for individuals.
All right, Laurie, thanks so much. We're going to take a short break on air, but we can, of course, continue this conversation over on our live streaming platforms. Be back in a couple minutes.
We are in commercial.
Okay, Laurie, a lot of people are asking about retroactive payments and when those will be issued. I mean, is it
all
like an answer?
It all kind of depends, again, what program you're talking about. For example, this week, we've just launched the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Phase 2 effort, which means we had to, in order to get the program up very quickly, we started by paying those eligible the minimum of $167 per week. Mm-hmm. Starting this week, we're going back in. We have the programming in place now where we can recalculate depending upon how much you tell us you earned in 2019. And then now what we can do is go back and pay you retroactively whatever difference there may be, all the way up to a maximum of $450 per week.
All right. Sunny says, so I'm employed full-time as an essential worker, but I've worked 1 to 2 part-time jobs to supplement my income. Why am I being penalized for working full-time as an essential employee and not entitled to unemployment, just as other coworkers from those part-time jobs?
That's really an unfortunate part of the law. The law says that when it comes to the unemployment programs, if you are employed at least full-time in one job, you're not eligible to receive unemployment benefits. And it's very unfortunate because I know there's a lot of people out there who kind of count on their second jobs. But according to the law, we're not allowed to be able to process a claim for that extra benefit, the extra salary. Got
it. Okay, so Maria Pinto says, I quit my job back in September. Do I qualify for UI? I have still not found a job. Is there a program that works for her?
You know, it kind of, again, all depends. When you apply, you go into UI Online, I would certainly encourage her to apply. You can go and apply, and then what we ask for, and be prepared to provide, because some people aren't doing this, and what happens there, that means there's a mistake on the claim, and we're not able to automatically process it. So
Got it.
please make sure you
Okay.
complete it accurately.
Hang on, we're coming back on air. Thanks.
Okay.
4, 3, 2.
All right, we are back with Laurie Levy from California's EDD to answer your questions about benefits. Corinne wants to know, my husband is a seasonal firefighter and got rehired a month ago. Can't seem to find a way to stop his benefits. Normally, you just wouldn't approve the funds, but the state is pushing them through without approval. So he has all this extra money in his account that's just sitting there. Basically, that's a situation that I think I've seen a lot of. What do you advise people there?
It actually is a very small subset of individuals. And what I would advise is to go through our Ask EDD system. And there's a segment there where you can say, I have returned to work, and this is what has happened. And then that helps us process the fact that you're back to work. And then we're going to be following up with you to be able to collect that money back. Again, it was just for a short period of time, for a few weeks, when we were doing some auto certifying.
Do you call people individually, though, Laurie?
It all depends. I mean, you'll receive a notice, and if there's a reason for us to call you, normally we'll receive a notice either by mail or in your UI Online account that says we're going to be calling you, and then we'll establish a time period by which we'll call.
Okay. David wants to know, can I apply for unemployment benefits extension even though I exhausted my account prior to the pandemic?
Again, I think that maybe, again, without seeing the specifics of the case, it may be a situation by which somebody ran out of benefits. If they're still within that 12-month benefit year, in other words, your claim year started on or after June 2nd of 2019, but you ran out of your benefits, say back in December or January, we can't pay any extension benefits for that time all the way up until the first week we can pay extension benefits, which is the week that starts March 29th.
Okay, here is a question from, you know what, I can't even read them because, Laurie, they're coming in so quickly and it's just updating like this. Why isn't ID verification available online instead of sending it through the mail? Nick wants to know. The process is complicated and shouldn't take this long.
You know, again, we so apologize for that. Normally, we wouldn't have this kind of workload associated with that. We have so many new people coming in to apply now, but it is a system that we are looking at trying to automate. We're doing a number of different things in addition to redirecting hundreds of staff to this effort. So while we don't have it currently available, we'll be able to upload it, for example. Hopefully, we'll be able to do that sometime soon. Okay.
Oh, Minder has a really good question. In fact, it's troubling, but maybe you have an answer to this. PUA, they filled out their application, right? Made a minor mistake on it, so that caused disqualification. How to fix? Called thousands of times, no resolution. What do you say to that?
There are ways in which you can get something. If there was an error made on your application, and the unfortunate thing is, if you do make an error, it can't be automatically processed through our system, so it kicks it out for staff follow-up, which will always take a little longer to get processed, unfortunately. However, if you can't get through on the phone, or if you can't submit a question through, for instance, your UI Online account, you also can take the notice that you received that tells you what we have noted that you supplied to us, and you can correct it on that notice, and you can send it back to the EDD at the address that is listed on that notice. We're finding a lot of people send them just to find any EDD address that they can. It's really important to send it back to the address on that notice.
All right, Jennifer Mazza wants to know, please address when penalty weeks have been served, do we go back to our regular UI?
And again, I don't have the specifics of her claim to be able to answer. There are some penalty weeks involved, normally associated with a false statement made in a prior claim. And so those are things that we normally work through with the claimant on a case-by-case basis.
All right. A lot of people are also asking about retroactive payments and when those will be issued. You addressed that a little bit, and I know the situations are different. But, do you feel like you guys are getting a good handle on that?
I think the demand has just been such an onslaught that, again, we are redirecting hundreds of staff and doing all kinds of things to assist with that, including the hiring effort of 1,800 people. I think the hardest part is that we continue to have to build something new, this kind of plane in midair kind of situation. I'm hoping that we can when we start launching the extension program next week, and then, of course, the the phase 2 of that program in July, we can finally start getting some of these new type of elements that we have to build settled. And hopefully that makes things a lot smoother for individuals as we move forward.
All right, Laurie, we have only 20 seconds left, so not enough time to launch another question. But again, what is the best time to try to use your website or call your hotline?
You know, there are the phone lines are available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. And then, of course, with our online system, I would encourage you to address that and try to get into that before the hours of 10 o'clock in the morning and then after the hours of 5 o'clock in the evening.
All right, Laurie Levy from EDD, thank you so much for answering our questions today about unemployment benefits, PUA, and a whole bunch of questions. I know it's a challenging task, but thank you for keeping the conversation going with us.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
All right, stick around, Laurie, because we're going to talk on our live stream platforms. Take a short break on the air.
And we're at break.
Hey, I have a question, which has to do with, I think, the checks. Was it the checks? Oh, hang on one second. I want to ask, one of my colleagues had an issue with all their identifying factors from address to Social Security being available. The claim form that was sent in the mail to them, like all the information, personal information, including social, was up there. So is there any fear of sending that kind of sensitive info by mail? What if it gets into the wrong hands? Identity fraud could be an issue, and fraudulent claims on the EDD. I hear that's happening a lot, even in lots of other states.
You know, there's a couple different situations in what you just talked about there. So first of all, unfortunately, with all the data breaches that we've read about over the last year or so on a nationwide scale as well as a global scale, that gives people a lot of personal identifying information which they can commit imposter fraud. And that's exactly why we have our ID alert process in place, by which if we're getting information and it doesn't seem to match, because we match up with the Social Security Administration and with DMV records. So if there's something amiss there, we follow up with you to try to collect some more information so we can try to resolve that, and we can hopefully prove you are who you say you are.
Okay. Last question. Christine Factor wants to know, if I apply for a PUA as a business owner, do I have to prove my 2019 income with some sort of verification?
You know, we're following up on that. Obviously, we're taking what you've been able to tell us about your 2019 income, and then we're going to be following up with you, especially because if you qualify, for instance, an increased benefit amount between the 167 minimum payment and the maximum of up to 450, we'll be following up with you to get any further information we may need. But a lot of that recalculating on that increased benefit amount should be able to be done automatically.
All right, Laurie Levy, and that's going to do it for now. Thanks so much for joining us today. Again, come back anytime.
Oh, thank you so much again for having me.
Take care.
You too.
We're working every day to tell stories that help build a better Bay Area, which includes stories about your health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and right now during the pandemic, it's a topic that in many ways affects everybody. In an interview you'll see only on ABC7, reporter Kate Larson spoke to Zach Williams, that's Robin Williams' son, about how he has overcome his own mental health challenges and is now working to help others. She joins us live now in the newsroom. Kate?
Hey there, Kristen. Well, I had a great conversation with Zach this week, who grew up in San Francisco. He now lives in Los Angeles with his family, including his one-year-old son. He actually has his birthday this week. Zach is a dedicated mental health professional, and we had a really great conversation about his work and how he's used his work to help cope with his own mental health struggles.
My becoming a mental health advocate stemmed from the trauma and loss I experienced after my dad died by suicide. I experienced a serious low point in my life. I fell into becoming a mental health advocate because I needed to heal and recover myself. We need to come out of this coronavirus pandemic with a growth-oriented mindset around supporting others and our communities to create a more connected, happier world.
So for himself, Zach told me that talk therapy, community support groups, meditation, and staying away from drugs and alcohol have all really helped him deal with his own feelings of anxiety and depression head on. Zach is a really insightful and thoughtful guy. He's working with multiple mental health advocacy nonprofits. He's also starting his own anxiety supplement company. We have the complete interview with Zach on our website, ABC7news.com, so you can check it out there. And of course, Kristen, coming up at 4 o'clock, we do have our town hall meeting coming up. Kristen, back to you.
Yeah, and I hope conversations like these, Kate, will continue to help erase the stigma surrounding the mental health issues so important for Zach to open up.
Absolutely. It was a great conversation, and we look forward to more at 4 o'clock in half an hour.
All right. Thanks, Kate. I'm looking forward to that as well. And that's going to do it for now. Thank you so much for joining us on this interactive show, Getting Answers. Today, we got answers for you regarding California's unemployment benefits. We'll be here every weekday at 3 o'clock on air and on live stream answering your questions, which you can easily post onto Facebook, watch it on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, ABC7news.com, and the ABC7 News app. And we're tracking questions that weren't answered. We'll get you next time. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye. All right. Thank you, friends on Facebook. Thanks for joining today. Hope you enjoy the conversation and learn something that will help you. Remember, there's a best time to utilize the website for the EDD. So I just learned that as well myself, early in the morning or later past the normal business hours. So there you go. Good luck. I'll see you later.